Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm going to deal with topic representation of India in 20th century European literature. So, here is my academic information. Then, this is table of content. And let's begin with the research question hypothesis. So, my research question is how does 20th century European literature represent India, and to what extent do this representation reflect colonial ideology or idealize Indian spirituality as a response to Western culture disillusionment? Then, my hypothesis is India in 20th century European literature is shaped by two dominant narrative. One that perpetuate colonial ideology through paternalistic portrayals, and another that idealize Indian spiritual wisdom as a means to address Western culture disillusionment. While some authors reinforce imperialistic themes, others use Indian philosophy to challenge Western rationalism and materialism. Then introduction. In the 20th century, India played a significant role in shaping the landscape of English literature. As a writer from both within and outside India began to explore the country's culture, social and political complexity. Several authors represent India through their work in unique way. So first representation of India, we can see in the Rudyard Kipling's novel The King, was published in 1901. A representation of India, Kipling's scheme represent India through the colonized gaze, portraying British imperialism as a moral and stabilized force. A Kipling narrative emphasized social hierarchy as a natural line with the British Empire's ideological dominance. Kipling's belief in the white man's burden is evident in Kim, where the British are portrayed as a paternalistic ruler guiding India's development. Here is a mention of the Great Game unfold as a Kim navigate British espionage while blending into Indian society. His knowledge of Indian language and custom reflect Kipling's attempt to portray India's cultural richness. Yet this knowledge ultimately served imperial interest. And so basically, Rudyard Kipling tried to show India as a negative sense that British are not rule, but they try to civilize and try to develop India. Then T.S. Eliot's poem "The Wasteland," it refers a modern epic poem, was published in 1922. In "The Wasteland," T.S. Eliot used Indian spiritual concept like Ganga, Buddhist philosophy, and the Upanishad to suggest that spiritual renewal and inner peace can overcome the decline of Western culture. First representation in poem India is by a fire sermon that connect the Buddhist philosophy and try to indirectly capture the Indian philosophy that connect with Buddhism. Then there is a mention of Ganga and Himvat. Ganga was uh, sunken and the limb sleeve waited for rain while the black cloud gathered far distant over Himvan. So here is the Ganga seen as a purity, life and spiritual renewal. Then Himvant is a sacred mountain range in India, often associated with a divine power and spiritual strength. Then another representation is Datta, Dayadvam, and Damyata. That a message derived from the Brihadkaranya Upanishad. It means Datta means give, Dayadvam means sympathize, and Damyata means control. Then the ultimate message of the wasteland is a Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. That drawn from the Upanishada, where it signifies the peace with a passage understanding, function as a spiritual benediction, a calming end to poem's chaotic journey, suggests the possibility of inner harmony despite external turmoil. T.S. Eliot not directly mention India, but he choose some lines and reference that indirectly represent India. Then Herman Hesse's Siddhartha was published in 1922. It portray India as a land of spiritual enlightenment, exploring theme of self-discovery, detachment, and inner peace. The protagonist Siddhartha reflect Buddhist and Hindu philosophies, rejecting materialism in pursuit of spiritual fulfillment. So Siddhartha not directly connect with Buddhism, but Hermann Hesse tried to relate this idea and create the character of Siddhartha and show his journey about spirituality and fasting and all. Then there is a one passage about spirituality. The river is everywhere at once, at the source and at the mouth, at the waterfall, at the memory, at the rapid in the sea, in the mountain, everywhere at once, and that there is only the present time for it, not the shadow of the past, not the shadow of the future. This metaphor emphasizes the Hindu and Buddhist concept of cyclical existence and the idea of interconnectedness. Then fourth is E.M. Foster's A Passage to India. Foster's novel critique British colonial arrogance and explore cultural misunderstanding by reversing the typical race and rape narrative. Foster exposed the fragility of colonial dominance. The novel reflects India as a culturally rich, yet fragmented nation where spiritual complexity contrasts Western rationalism. India, 100 Indians whisper outside beneath the indifferent sky. So this line reflects the vast cultural legacy of India, and he tried to cover the Indian various Indian culture and various belief of India. Then next is Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, was published in 1927. It represents India, symbolizes colonial power, exotism, and material wealth. Woolf's reference evoke India as a distant yet influential presence in British consciousness. Here is some reference from text. For the fact that they negotiate treaty, rule India, control finance. So this line represent the colonial power that how British rule India and try to control people and all India. Then another is the Indian plains. She felt herself pushing aside the thick leather curtain. It represents the exotism. And then last one is about material wealth, the opal necklace which Uncle James had brought her from India. So it showed her uh, uh, it tried to show the material wealth of India, that how much gold and diamonds are important in India. Then final one is Around the World in 18 Day by Jules Verne, was published in 1872. It represents India. Wales' depiction of India reflect a Western stereotype of tradition and mysticism. The infamous Sati episode, where Phyllis Fogg rescue an Indian widow from self-immolation, reinforced the colonial idea of British heroism. So this novel represents the Sati Pratha of India. One woman named Oda was to be sacrificed according to the custom of the country, but the protagonist of the novel, Phyllis Fogg, rescue her, and he think about the condition of women in India. One of the most notable moment in when Phyllis Fogg, the protagonist, save an Indian woman named Oda from being sacrificed through the ancient practice of sati, where widows were expected to self-immolate on their husband's funeral pyre. Then final conclusion, the representation of India in 20th century European literature reveal a tension between admiration and imperial patronization, while Kipling and Vale reinforce colonial stereotype. Now, Foster critique British dominance, and Eliot and Hazy explore Indian spiritual depth. Wool's portrayal reflect India's presence as a both material and symbolic influence within British consciousness. Each text offer a unique yet incomplete vision of shape by Western literary tradition, political ideology, and spiritual fascination. Here is a reference.
So, Krishna, my question is how did British authors in 20th century portray India, and how did this shape Western views?
So it shaped Western view in both side. It one like Herman Hesse's Siddhartha and Westland portrait is a spiritual land, and then Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse and the Passage of India that all shape a view in a chaotic and exotic manner of India. Next.
So, Krishna, my question is that can Indian literature effectively challenge or represent the impact of colonialism?
Yes, so some work like Arundhati Roy's and Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children that all challenge the colonialism and also represent the brutality of British. Thank you.